In today's world, everyone is trying to control something. Their image, their partner, their career, their destiny. Their entire identity, curated, filtered, and forced into perfection. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The more you try to control life, the more it controls you. We live in an age of anxiety. Constantly connected, endlessly distracted, yet spiritually starved. We check the news hoping for certainty. We chase money hoping for peace. We seek relationships hoping to feel whole, but everything keeps slipping. So what do when control fails you? When people betray you? When outcomes collapse despite your best effort? You learn what the Stoics taught centuries ago. Let go of what's not yours. Master what is. And finally, find the freedom that no one can take away. This isn't about being passive. It's about radical inner command. It's about becoming the kind of person who walks through fire and keeps walking. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer afraid of losing control. This is the final lesson. The hardest one, and the one that separates the reactive from the truly powerful. Let's begin. 1. Control your mind or it will control you. One moment, everything feels smooth like a calm stream flowing effortlessly. The next, we're caught in whirlwinds of stress, anxiety, and chaos. That's the paradox of growth. It never asks for permission. It doesn't give you a manual. It just throws you into situations that force you to evolve, ready or not. But here's the question. In the midst of all this uncertainty, is there a way to stay grounded? Can we actually train ourselves to remain calm regardless of what happens around us? The answer is yes. Calmness isn't some mystical trait reserved for monks or ancient sages. It's not exclusive to those living in silence on a mountaintop. Calmness is a skill, a habit, a muscle you can strengthen. And like any skill, it starts with practice daily, intentional, persistent. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the core of Stoicism. It doesn't ask you to control the external world. It asks you to master your reaction to it. In this journey, we'll dive deep into how to train your mind, not just to survive chaos, but to stay calm through it. Because life isn't about avoiding curveballs. It's about learning to dance in the storm. Let's start with the first and most important principle. Control your mind or it will control you. Have you ever felt like your own mind was sabotaging you? One minute you're fine, and the next intrusive. Thoughts start flooding in. Negative emotions rise out of nowhere. Anxiety, anger, insecurity. You say things you don't mean. You do things you regret. Later, you look back and wonder, why did I react like that? You're not alone. Human mind is a powerful but often undisciplined force. Left unchecked, it can pull you into irrational fear, explosive anger, or deep regret just because of a single moment or word. So the big question is this: do you control your mind or does your mind control you? Imagine this: you're at a party. The energy is light. You're laughing with friends. Then suddenly, someone makes a snide remark about you in front of everyone. A harsh joke. A subtle jab. Maybe intentional, maybe not. If your mind is untrained, what happens next? Your pulse quickens. Your chest tightens. Your pride takes a hit. You feel the urge to clap back, to fire off a comeback, defend yourself, or just storm out. But stop right there. Is that really you reacting? Or is it just your emotions hijacking the wheel? Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." That's a wake-up call. It's not the event that causes suffering. It's how we interpret it. If you perceive that person's remark as an attack, you'll get angry. If you see it as just noise, just someone else's opinion, it won't even leave a scratch on your self-esteem. Stoicism doesn't ask you to become emotionless. That's not the goal. It asks you to become emotionally intelligent, to observe your emotions, understand them, and not let them dictate your behavior. Let's go back to the party. Someone insults you. Your initial instinct is to react. But instead, you pause, take a breath. You don't fire back. You don't defend your ego. You simply respond, maybe with a smile, or maybe with silence, because you know that their words don't define your worth unless you let them. That's not weakness. That's power. When you respond with calm, you don't just protect your own peace, you flip the script. The person who expected a fight is left off balance. They wanted a reaction. What they got was grace, and that's unnerving. You've probably experienced this in real life. When you stay cool while someone else loses it, you suddenly become the one in control. You're the one people respect. Because real composure is rare. And when you display it, others notice. Training your mind to do this consistently takes time. It starts small. When someone cuts you off in traffic, breathe. Don't shout. When a coworker takes credit for your idea, pause. Don't retaliate. When someone criticizes you unfairly, listen. Don't take it personally. Because every time you resist the urge to react, you're training your mind to stay steady. You're reclaiming your freedom. Let's make something clear. Control does not mean suppression. It means self-mastery. You can feel anger. You can feel hurt. That's human. But you don't have to act on it, because if you don't control your mind, it will control you. And when that happens, you become a slave not to people, but to your own impulses. There's a quiet kind of freedom in being the person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't lash out, who doesn't take the bait. That's the kind of person Stoicism helps you become. So starting today, try this simple practice. When you feel triggered, pause. Observe the emotion. Name it. Anger, fear, pride. Ask yourself, will reacting serve me? Or is this just noise? Then choose your response not from instinct, but from intention. This is what Stoics trained themselves to do daily. Not to be immune to pain, but to be immune to panic. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Because in the end, the world will keep testing you. That's inevitable, but how you respond, that's your domain. And that's where true power lies. 2. Anger doesn't solve problems. Anger is one of the most common human emotions and one of the most misunderstood. It feels powerful. It feels righteous. It feels like we're taking back control. But more often than not, anger only makes things worse. It clouds judgment. It narrows perspective. It turns small problems into bigger ones and blinds us from better options. Stoicism teaches that if you want to stay calm in a chaotic world, you must rethink how you view anger, not as strength, but as a loss of control. Let's say you're driving on a packed highway during rush hour. You're focused, moving at a steady speed. Suddenly, a car swerves right in front of you without warning. Your heart skips. You slam the brakes. And just like that, rage floods your system. Sound familiar? You feel disrespected, endangered. Want to respond, honk the horn, yell, tailgate the driver. But ask yourself, will any of that fix the situation? Will your horn undo their carelessness? Will yelling make you feel better or just keep the adrenaline going longer? More importantly, will anger bring clarity or just chaos? This is the trap of emotional reactivity. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That quote isn't just poetic, it's practical. We can't control how others behave, but we can always control what we do next. The person who cut you off is already gone. The question now is, do you want to stay in control of your mind or let that driver control the rest of your day? Anger often disguises itself as empowerment, but in truth, it's a form of surrender, because when you give in to anger, you hand over your peace to someone else. Let's be clear, anger is not evil. It's natural. It exists for a reason. It tells us when something feels wrong or unjust. But there's a difference between feeling anger and acting out of anger. One is awareness. The other is recklessness. Imagine someone says something hurtful to you. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's online. Your first instinct might be to strike back, to defend yourself, to put them in their place. But before you react, ask, is this worth losing my peace over? If the answer is no, then don't give it your energy. Let it go, because the truth is, anger rarely leads to meaningful resolution. It leads to broken relationships, impulsive decisions, and regret. Just because someone throws you a match doesn't mean you have to light the fire. Let's go deeper. Anger is a signal. It's trying to alert you to something. But instead of exploding, you can listen to it. What is it really saying? Are you hurt because your boundaries were crossed? Are you upset because you feel overlooked or disrespected? Are you angry because you feel powerless? Great. Now that you know, what's the best response, not reaction? Because true strength is choosing to respond wisely, not impulsively. There's a powerful example in Stoic history that demonstrates this. The Roman philosopher Seneca was once targeted by Emperor Nero, accused of conspiracy, and eventually ordered to take his own life. How did Seneca respond? Not with rage, not with protest, not even with sorrow. He calmly accepted his fate, wrote a final letter to his friends, and faced death with composure. Now you don't have to be facing exile or execution to apply this mindset. But the principle is timeless. You don't need to fight every battle. You only need to win the one inside your own mind. You see, anger isn't the only response to a challenge. Sometimes silence is more powerful than shouting. Sometimes restraint earns more respect than retaliation. Because in a chaotic world, the person who can stay calm has the greatest influence. There's a popular misconception that if you don't fight back, you're weak. That if you don't respond immediately, you're letting people walk all over you. But real strength isn't about barking louder than everyone else. Real strength is about standing still in the middle of a storm while everyone else is spinning. The person who keeps their cool under pressure, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't shout, doesn't get baited, is the one people listen to. That's leadership. Let's go back to that highway scenario. You're still on the road. That reckless driver is long gone. But you're calm, you're focused. You're not letting someone else's recklessness decide your next hour. That's a win. Or maybe it's your workplace. A coworker undermines you in a meeting. They raise their voice, trying to provoke you. You have two options: match their energy and make a scene, or keep your composure, speak when the time is right, and let your maturity outshine their tantrum. Which option gives you more power? Now here's the deeper truth. Anger is easy. Calmness is mastery. Anyone can yell. Anyone can throw a fit. That doesn't take skill, it just takes a fragile ego. But staying calm under fire, that requires discipline, self-awareness, strength. And that's what Stoicism trains you to do. So the next time you feel anger bubbling up, don't suppress it, but pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what's this really about? Will reacting make this better? Is this worth sacrificing my peace? You'll be surprised how often the answer is no. And when you start responding instead of reacting, you become the kind of person others turn to. The one they trust. The one they respect. Not because you dominate, but because you don't need to. Let's wrap up this part with a simple reminder. The calmest person in the room is usually the most powerful, because while others are chasing control, you've already found it within yourself. 3. Calmness is not weakness, it's strength. There's a dangerous myth in modern culture, especially among men, that calmness means you're soft, passive, emotionless, weak. But nothing could be further from the truth. Because here's what they don't tell you. Staying calm is one of the hardest things you can do. And it's also one of the most powerful. See, anyone can explode. Anyone can lash out when things go wrong. That's easy. That's instinct. That's survival mode. But calmness? Calmness takes mastery. It means you've trained yourself to pause when others panic, to breathe when others shout, to think when others react. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Let's make this real. Imagine you're in a heated argument. Someone raises their voice, insults you, maybe even questions your character. Your heart pounds. Your fists clench. Your ego says, fire back, don't take that. But instead of snapping, you remain composed. You let the storm pass. You wait. Then, with a clear mind, you speak calmly and with purpose. Now tell me, who looks stronger? In that moment, the one shouting to be heard, or the one so grounded that they didn't need to shout at all? That's the essence of calmness. And here's the twist most people miss. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It's the control of it. Stoicism teaches this over and over. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, your perception determines your peace. Someone disrespects you? You don't have to see it as a personal attack. You can see it as their weakness showing. Something doesn't go your way. You can either see it as unfair or as an opportunity to strengthen your patience. This shift in mindset is what separates people who are constantly in turmoil from people who are solid, composed, and unfazed. Let me put it bluntly. If you're calm, people can't control you. Think about that. If someone knows they can provoke you, they own a piece of your mind. But if you remain grounded, they've lost their power. That's why calmness is intimidating. It says, I've mastered myself. You can't shake me. Look at leaders throughout history, not the loudest ones, but the ones people respected. Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison. He walked out with dignity, not revenge. The Dalai Lama, driven from his home country, yet speaks only of compassion and peace. Or even modern examples, think of a seasoned coach or CEO who keeps their cool in a crisis. That's the person others rally behind. Why? Because calmness gives people a sense of stability. It's the rock in the storm, the eye of the hurricane. People naturally trust those who stay steady when the world shakes. Now, let's talk about your inner life. Calmness doesn't just help you navigate external problems. It protects you from internal chaos. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you're training your nervous system. You're building resilience. You're telling your brain, I am not a slave to emotion. I am the captain here. And that control leaks into every part of your life. Your relationships become healthier because you don't jump to conclusions. Your work improves because you focus under pressure. Your confidence grows not because things get easier, but because you get stronger. Stoicism doesn't ask you to become a robot. It asks you to become unshakable. And calmness is the path. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a cup of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, it stays cloudy. You can't see through it. But if you let it sit, if you let it be still, the mud settles. The water clears. That's what calmness does to your mind. It doesn't ignore the chaos. It gives it space to settle. Now here's something powerful to remember. You don't owe anyone a reaction. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every inconvenience deserves your energy. Not every battle is yours to fight. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. Sometimes walking away is the bravest move. Sometimes saying, "I'll handle this when I'm clear-headed," is a mark of real maturity. So if someone says you're too calm, take it as a compliment, because calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to respond with intention, not impulse. And in a world addicted to outrage, calmness is rebellion. Let that sink in. Your calmness is a form of resistance. It resists drama. It resists manipulation. It resists the need to prove yourself at every turn. You stop living in reaction to the world and start living in alignment with yourself. So next time you're tested, next time life throws a challenge, your way pause, take a breath, and remember, the storm may be loud, but the oak tree doesn't flinch. Be that tree. Because calmness isn't weakness, it's quiet power. And in a chaotic world, that kind of power changes everything. 4. Control what you can, accept what you can't. There's an ancient Stoic idea that sounds simple, but it's one of the most difficult things a person can truly live by. Focus only on what you can control. Accept what you cannot. At first glance, it sounds like a nice quote to put on a coffee mug. But when life hits hard, when your plans collapse, when someone betrays you, when the world throws chaos your way, this idea becomes your lifeline. Let's break it down. There are two kinds of problems in life. The kind you can do something about, the kind you can't. Most people blur the lines. They waste time trying to control the uncontrollable. They obsess over outcomes, over other people's opinions, over things far beyond their influence. And in doing so, they lose themselves. They become anxious, bitter, reactive. But the Stoic mind sees clearly. It draws a line between what is up to me and what is not. Let me give you a real example. Say you're up for a promotion. You've done everything right, worked hard, shown leadership, delivered results. You feel confident. But at the last moment, your company gives it to someone else. Maybe due to office politics, maybe a personal bias, maybe no good reason at all. Now here's the test. You can rage against it. You can spiral into resentment. You can rehearse the unfairness over and over in your mind. Or you can pause. You can say, "I did what I could. I can't control the decision, but I can control what I do next." Maybe that means asking for feedback. Maybe it means growing somewhere else. Maybe it means leveling up beyond what this company can even offer. That's power. Because here's the truth. When you focus on what you can't control, you give away your peace. But when you focus on what you can, you reclaim it. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it like this: there's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Let that sink in. You're not required to control everything. You're only required to master yourself. And when you really embrace this idea, life becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. You can't control the weather, but you can prepare for it. You can't control the economy, but you can manage your habits, your skills, your work ethic. This mindset is not passive, it's selective energy. You stop bleeding power into things that don't move your life forward. Let's be clear. Accepting what you can't control is not surrender. It's strategy. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a boat. A storm hits. The winds are wild. The sea is angry. You can't control the storm. You can't control the waves. You can't make the sky clear up, but you can adjust your sails. You can steer the rudder. You can keep the boat afloat no matter how rough the waters get. That's Stoicism, you. Don't waste time cursing the wind. You learn how to use it. Now, here's where this principle gets even deeper. Sometimes, what you can control is your ability to let go. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of needing to win every argument. Let go of chasing people who clearly don't respect you. Because here's the trap. When you try to control what doesn't belong to you, like someone's feelings, someone's loyalty, or the past itself, you set yourself up for misery. It's like trying to hold sand tighter by squeezing harder. The more you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you let go, when you open your palm, the sand settles. This is what freedom looks like. It's not about being indifferent. It's about being intentional with your energy. You don't stop caring. You start caring smarter. And this changes everything. In your relationships, you stop forcing things. You show up authentically and let others meet you where you are, or not. In your goals, you focus on daily effort, not distant guarantees. You stop obsessing over results and fall in love with the process. In your mental health, you stop arguing with reality. You accept what's happened. And from that clarity, you build forward. Now let's address something important. Some people fear this mindset because they think it means giving up. That if you don't fight everything, you'll lose control. But the opposite is true. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you finally start to control yourself. You become the calm in the chaos, the fire that burns clean, the presence that doesn't get pulled into every storm. And people notice. They might not understand it, but they'll feel it. They'll feel that you're different. Not because you have power over others, but because you have power within yourself. That kind of power is rare, and it comes from this practice. Every day, ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, act, move, speak, build. If no, release. Let go. Trust. Because when you master that distinction, life becomes lighter, more focused, more peaceful. The storms still come, but you learn to sail through them. You stop trying to fix the sky and start mastering the ship. And that's how you win, quietly. 5. Emotion is not the enemy, it's a message. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoicism is this: emotions are bad. Stoics suppress all feelings. Wrong. That's not Stoicism, that's emotional repression. And it's a recipe for breakdown. Real Stoicism doesn't ask you to become a robot. It asks you to become a master of your emotions, not a slave to them. Let's start here. Emotions are not enemies. They're messengers. When you feel anger, sadness, fear, or jealousy, it's not a sign that you failed. It's a signal that something in your world needs attention. But here's the key. You don't have to act on every emotion that arises. That's what the Stoics taught. You feel it. You examine it. You decide what it means and whether it's worth holding on to. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off aggressively. Your body floods with adrenaline, your heart rate spikes. You feel a flash of rage. Now you have a choice. You can chase them down, yell, flip them off, let the emotion drive you. Or you can pause. Recognize that your body's reacting to a perceived threat. Remind yourself, this isn't worth losing my peace over. And then, let it go. That moment of pause, that's Stoic power. Seneca said, a sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand, and so is anger. Anger. is not the villain. Unchecked, unexamined anger is. This applies to all emotions. When you're anxious, don't just push it down. Ask, what am I afraid of losing? What part of the future am I trying to control? When you're jealous, ask, what do they have that I feel I lack? Why do I believe that someone else's success threatens mine? When you're sad, ask, what story am I telling myself about what this pain means? Is that story true? This process turns emotions into tools, not tyrants. Here's the deeper truth. You will always feel things. Because you're human. Because you care. But you can train yourself to feel without being owned by the feeling. That's where your power lives. Now, let's go even deeper. The Stoics weren't afraid of emotion. They were afraid of emotional slavery. What does that mean? It means living reactively. Letting the outside world dictate your inner world. Being pushed and pulled like a puppet every time something goes wrong, or someone says something cruel. That's not strength. That's instability. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, leader of armies, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't saying, don't feel. He was saying, don't let feelings hijack your clarity. And this is important, especially for men in today's world. There's this toxic myth that a strong man is a man who never shows emotion, who bottles it up, pushes through, keeps silent. But bottling up isn't strength, it's pressure. And eventually, pressure bursts. A strong man, a stoic man, feels everything deeply, but he knows how to channel it. He doesn't explode. He understands. He turns pain into power, anger into clarity, sadness into compassion. And that makes him unshakable. Because here's the paradox. When you ignore your emotions, they control you from the shadows. But when you face them with honesty, they lose their power to destroy you. So what does this look like in real life? It means journaling when something stirs you up, instead of ranting or numbing out. It means breathing through discomfort, instead of avoiding it with distractions. It means saying, I feel hurt by that, instead of pretending you're fine while silently resenting someone. It's emotional discipline, not emotional denial. The Stoics believed this discipline was a form of training, just like you'd train your body. You don't get emotionally strong by chance. You build that strength, one situation at a time. You screw up, good. Learn. Adjust. You overreact, good. Study it, grow. You freeze in fear, good. Observe it. Breathe through it. Every emotional challenge is a training ground. Now let's clear up another misconception. Being emotionally disciplined doesn't mean being emotionally distant. In fact, the Stoics were often deeply connected to others. Marcus Aurelius loved his family. Seneca wrote letters full of care and warmth to his friends. Epictetus, once a slave, taught with passion and heart. They weren't cold. They were clear. They didn't let their love become obsession. They didn't let fear turn into paralysis. They didn't let grief become self-pity. They allowed emotion to inform them, not define them. And that's what you're being called to do. Feel your feelings. Honor them. But remember, you are not your feelings. You are the one watching them. You are the one who decides what they mean. And you are the one who chooses how to respond. That's where your freedom lives. So the next time something stirs your heart, pause. Feel it. Breathe. Ask what it's teaching you. Then move with clarity. That's not weakness. That's emotional mastery, and that's Stoicism in action. 6. The danger of validation. Why you must approve of yourself first. We live in a world addicted to attention. Hearts, likes, views, comments. They've become the modern currency of self-worth. But here's the brutal truth the Stoics knew. Thousands of years ago, if your self-worth depends on outside approval, then you don't own it. Let that sink in. If your confidence, your happiness, or your direction in life is based on what others think of you, then you are forever enslaved to their opinions. You become a leaf in the wind, drifting wherever social pressure blows. Now ask yourself, how often do you wait for permission? How often do you check your phone to see if what you said was good enough? How many times have you hesitated to speak your truth because you were afraid of being judged? That's not living. That's performing. And Stoicism has no room for performers. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinion than our own." It's a punch to the gut, isn't it? Because deep down, most of us do care too much what others think. We chase praise. We fear rejection. We shape-shift to fit in, instead of standing firm in who we are. But here's what the Stoics taught. You don't need applause to live well. You just need alignment. Alignment with your values, your principles, your inner voice. When you act in integrity with yourself, when your actions match your beliefs, that's when real confidence is born. Not from claps, not from compliments, from congruence. Because when you approve of yourself, when you live by your own code, the world's noise fades, you become untouchable. Now, let's get practical. How do you begin approving of yourself when the world is constantly measuring you? You stop measuring yourself by the world's standards. The Stoics didn't say, "Don't care about anything." They said, "Care deeply about the right things." Stop asking, "Did they like my post? Do they think I'm smart? Do I look successful enough?" Start asking, "Did I act with courage? Did I speak the truth? Did I do what was right, even when it was hard?" Because here's the catch. The world's approval is fickle. They love you today, mock you tomorrow. They praise your success, then secretly resent it. They want you to fit in until you outgrow them. So if your identity is built on that unstable ground, you'll always be in danger. Always second-guessing. Always needing another like to feel okay. But if you approve of yourself, truly, then you can walk through a room full of doubters and not shrink. You can fail in public and not crumble. You can speak an unpopular truth and stand tall. That is power. And that is Stoicism. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, growth often looks like regression to those who don't understand it. And if you're afraid of looking foolish, you'll never evolve. Think about the innovators, the visionaries, the rebels. They were mocked before they were admired. They were doubted before they were believed. And many of them were hated for the exact things that later made them legends. So what makes you think your approval must come early or easily? The Stoic approach is this: detach from needing to be liked, attach to needing to be honest. Speak honestly, live intentionally, love deeply, but don't beg for love in return. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive. It means developing inner independence. You can still value connection without depending on it to feel worthy. You can still accept feedback without bending your soul for it. You can still be humble without being spineless. Let's take a real example. Say you're starting a new project, a podcast, a blog, a business, something that matters to you. At first, nobody supports it. You hear silence, or worse, sarcasm. Now the old you might have quit. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they're right. Maybe I need to wait until everyone approves. But the Stoic you? The version of you trained in clarity and resilience. You stay the course. You say, Their silence doesn't cancel my voice. You trust the process. You trust your reasons. And you move forward because your validation is internal, not rented from the crowd. That's not ego. That's self-respect. Now one more point. The more you validate yourself, the less you'll need to prove yourself. You won't have to post every achievement. You won't feel the urge to argue with every critic. You won't need to defend your path to people who were never meant to walk it. You'll be rooted. And when you're rooted, storms don't shake you. They shape you. So today, ask yourself, what would I do if I didn't care who was watching? What truth would I speak if I wasn't afraid of judgment? Who would I become if I stopped begging for permission? The Stoics had their answer. They became themselves, fully, quietly, powerfully. Now, it's your turn. 7. The final test. Choosing peace over control. We've talked about perception, endurance, solitude, restraint, and the danger of seeking validation. But this last lesson, this is the final test of Stoicism. Can you let go of control and still remain at peace? Most people can't. They live clenched, white-knuckling their way through life, trying to control outcomes, people, even the future itself. They need the job to go a certain way. They need their partner to act a certain way. They need success to happen on their schedule, or they fall apart. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion, and chasing it is the fastest way to misery. This is not to say you're powerless. No. The Stoics believed you had immense power, but only over a few things. Your thoughts, your actions, your attitude, your values, that's your domain. Everything else? Not yours. Not the weather, not the market, not other people's choices, not how you're perceived. Epictetus said it best. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. It sounds simple, but it's everything. Because most of our stress, our anxiety, our tension, it doesn't come from what is, but from our resistance to it. We think, this shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't act like that. This plan was supposed to work. And that resistance creates suffering. But the Stoics, they trained themselves to release it, to accept what is, without collapsing. Now, acceptance does not mean passivity. It's not giving up. It's not letting people walk all over you. It's not surrendering your power. Acceptance is strength. It's looking life dead in the face and saying, I didn't choose this, but I choose how I respond to it. That's where your peace comes from detachment. Not coldness, but clarity. Let's make it real. Imagine you've been betrayed. Someone close to you lied, hurt you, disappointed you. Your instinct might be to rage, to seek revenge, to control the situation, force an apology, demand they feel remorse. But the Stoic response is quieter and infinitely more powerful. You say, I cannot control their choices, but I can control mine. I choose not to become like them. That is peace. That is power. Because when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you reclaim your energy. And when you reclaim your energy, you become unbreakable. Now, the world doesn't like this. The world wants you reactive. They want you arguing, shouting, defending. They want your attention hooked on everything you can't control, because that's how they sell you fear, products, and distractions. But a Stoic walks differently. They walk light. They carry only what's theirs, their values, their conduct, their effort. The rest, they let it pass like clouds in the sky. And this isn't easy. It takes courage to release control. It takes strength to say, this is not mine to hold. But it's the only path to inner stillness. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, disease, death. Yet in the middle of that chaos, he wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He didn't say, maybe you'll find peace. He said, you will. Because it's guaranteed when you finally stop wrestling with what's beyond you. Let's go deeper. This lesson, choosing peace over control, applies to everything. Your career. You can control your effort, not the promotion. Your relationships. You can control your honesty, not how they feel about you. Your creative work. You can control the process, not how it's received. The Stoic path is to release attachment to outcomes and ground yourself in action. This gives you incredible resilience. Because if you judge yourself only by outcomes, you'll live on an emotional roller coaster. But if you judge yourself by your integrity, your consistency, and your courage, then you can walk away from anything, even failure, with your head high. And that's not theory. That's freedom. Look at nature. A river doesn't try to control the rocks, it flows around them. The tree doesn't complain about the storm, it bends, then straightens. The sun doesn't beg for praise, it rises regardless. That's Stoicism in action. Silent strength, natural resilience, non-resistance that creates unstoppable momentum. So ask yourself, where in life are you trying too hard to control? What would happen if you let go of that tight grip and trusted yourself instead? What peace is waiting for you if you stop trying to fix what isn't yours? That's the final test. And when you pass it, you unlock a version of yourself that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't break. You become calm in the storm, silent in noise, steady in the fire. You become what the world fears and secretly admires, a man who does not need to control because he already controls. The only thing that matters, himself. That is the essence of Stoicism. Not just in thought, but in motion. Not just in silence, but in power. Not just in solitude, but in absolute peace. You've walked through 7 gates. And now, the world hasn't changed, but you have. Now the choice is yours. Go back to chasing the world, or become the kind of person the world cannot shake. Either way, you are ready.